Good evening, I'm Kim Christensen.
And I'm Kyle Clark. Aurora's new police chief was picked in secret, keeping community members from raising concerns. Todd Chamberlain is APD's first permanent chief in more than 2 years.
He is now just 2 weeks into the job. Our Kelly Rinke sat down with him to talk about his plans for the department.
You're the 6th police chief in Aurora in the last 5 years. Why did you want the job?
Well, I wanted it for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is I still believe in this profession, and I still believe in what the impact of a chief of police can do, not only to the community they serve, but also to the officers that do that service.
Chief Todd Chamberlain is stepping into a role that's been hard to fill in Aurora. After public feedback sessions during prior searches backfired, the city decided to hire him without community input.
That trust has to be built over time, and the only way I can prove that is through a relationship with them.
Some in the community have been critical of his private hiring. After City Council voted in favor of Chamberlain, protesters began chanting. Council members continued the meeting online, away from the public.
Those council members who are here that I spent many, many days with, this has been a long process. This was not a telephone call and you got the job. This has been processes over many, many months.
His top priority is bringing stability to the department after consistent turnover in his office.
Making sure that we are retaining the officers that are here, ensuring that they feel that they are respected.
The department's faced allegations of racism and biased policing. After the death of Elijah McClain, it's now under a consent decree to monitor how APD uses force and interacts with communities of color.
We complete it in a way that's going to be sustainable long after I'm out of the chair.
Previous chiefs have not stayed in his chair for long. Chamberlain says with him, it'll be different.
To make sure that the officers know I am here for a period of time. I'm not an interim.
Kelly Rinke, 9 News.
Chief Chamberlain also talked about the presence of the Venezuelan gang in Aurora. He says it's small and the department doesn't want it to grow. APD's been accused of a cover-up by Republican leadership in Aurora for pushing back on their claims that the gang is more widespread.
We're getting some new views of the high country as the leaves up there keep changing. Reports suggest that the fall colors are either very close to peak or at peak, above 9,000 feet, along and north of 285. Sky 9 was up over Guanella Pass this afternoon, one of the great drives this time of year. Our resident leaf guy, meteorologist Chris Bianchi, says probably looking at another 5 to 7 days of peak colors left. What say you, Corey Reppenhagen?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much spot on. We should be in what we call the peak all the way through Sunday, but we have very calm conditions, and even after the peak, there's still billions of gold leaves to look at. So the peak is only for the picky. Here's the current temperatures here in Denver. It's really comfortable after hitting a high temperature of 78 degrees officially at Denver International Airport. Off the way to a cool night, but relatively mild here with the temperatures staying above 50 degrees perhaps in the Denver area and some above freezing temperatures in the mountain towns. Here's your weather impact headlines. We're tracking some record fall heat, unusually warm temperatures tomorrow and Thursday. We could be breaking a record. This all comes with a dry spell, no rain in the forecast here in the Denver area straight through the weekend. And as far as those fall colors, we'll talk a little bit more about that peak and how long it'll last. That's coming up in the forecast.
Tonight, Denver Public Schools kicked off a series of meetings to go over potential closures and consolidations with members of the community.
DPS has not said which schools could be closed. Instead, they're just kind of explaining what's going into the decision-making process. 9 News reporter Janelle Finch is along now. And Janelle, how did that strategy go?
Kim, Kyle, DPS didn't answer the biggest question on everyone's minds, which is what schools are closing. These meetings aren't meant for that. These meetings are to discuss enrollment data as well as talk about the future of Denver Public Schools. The district blames declining enrollment, saying it's been a challenge for more than a decade, and it's not projected to get any better. DPS expects to serve 6,000 fewer students by the 2028-29 school year. The district says it'll look at areas with clusters of schools to be consolidated. DPS says it'll also consider the number of students on free and reduced lunch, the distance between new schools for families if their current school were to close, and if a closure would further segregate students by race, language, or economic class. DJ Torres has a 3rd grader at McMean Elementary. He says if that's going to change, he wants to make sure he, his son, and other families have a say.
And so while I am a McMean parent and having McMean stay open is a high value to me, other parents across the district will likely have that same ownership and connection to their home schools. And so how are we involving families like myself, kiddos like my son, as a part of that conversation, and not just, again, not just a peripheral part of it, but being really integrated in the conversation and real owners in that conversation and process.
The district says declining enrollment can be tied to declining birth rates and families getting priced out of city limits. The next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at Manual High School at 6 p.m. Superintendent Alex Marrero is expected to make a recommendation to the board on what potential schools might close on November 7th. The district says after that, it'll host school-level meetings for community and staff to talk about next steps before a decision is made. Live in Denver, Janelle Finch, 9 News.
The man who authorities say staked out Donald Trump for 12 hours on his golf course in Florida and wrote of his desire to kill the former president has now been indicted on charges of an attempted assassination. Ryan Routh had initially been charged with just firearms offenses. The upgraded charges reflect the Justice Department's determination that Routh methodically plotted to kill Trump, aiming a rifle through the shrubbery surrounding Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach on an afternoon when he was playing. Routh also left behind a note describing his plans.
A bill meant to boost security for presidential candidates is headed to President Biden's desk. The Senate unanimously passed the Enhanced Presidential Security Act today. The House unanimously passed it Friday. It would give former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris the same level of protection provided to President Biden. The bill gives broad discretion to the Secret Service as to how to do it. It was introduced after the first assassination plot against Trump. It's been 6 days since Donald Trump said he would visit Aurora within the next 2 weeks. And while we haven't received any details about a possible trip for him, we do know his running mate is coming to Denver. J.D. Vance is scheduled to attend a fundraiser October 8th. It's going to be hosted by mega donor Larry Mizell and former Colorado Senator Cory Gardner. Tickets start at $3,300. It's not clear if Vance will take part in any public events when he's here.
A phone call from the Mesa County Elections Office to a Colorado Mesa University student raised some red flags. And as we learn more, it provides insight into how Colorado's elections work. The student, registered to vote in Mesa County, wanted her ballot sent to her parents' address in a different county. This morning, the student got a phone call from Mesa County Elections. They told her zip code was incorrect. That student later messaged her parents, telling them that the elections staff said that she should use her parents' house as her address, telling them, quote, "That's where my scholarships are based, and they can take away my scholarships if I put my residence in Mesa County." We asked Republican Mesa County Clerk Bobby Gross about that.
They suggested that she check with her parents to make sure that she doesn't want to change her residential address in case it does affect her scholarship.
Spokeswoman for Colorado Mesa University says it's highly unlikely that a student's scholarship or financial aid would be impacted by a change of voter registration address. It's common for a college student to be registered in one county and have the ballot mailed to an address in a different county, and that is perfectly legal.
A massive construction project is coming to Colfax in East Denver, and it's expected to impact businesses for years. Last night, Denver City Council unanimously approved a nearly $200 million construction contract to build a center bus lane through Colfax connecting Denver and Aurora. It means parts of Colfax will be torn up until 2027. The city is already preparing to give businesses along the road money from the $1.8 million fund created to help stores impacted by the work. Councilmember Amanda Sawyer is asking the mayor for another $1.1 million. And the Colfax Business Improvement District is taking a grassroots approach. They're going to be selling T-shirts at stores on the street to create an emergency fund for businesses that need it once construction starts.
This is just another big project coming to the corridor that creates a lot of uncertainty in a time where it's already a little challenging economically.
Groundbreaking is set to start at the beginning of next month. Construction is expected to continue nonstop for the next 3 years.
Jefferson County's pumping the brakes on a proposal to create a mountain bike park with a chairlift near Conifer. Last night, the Jeffco Planning Board voted to deny the special use permit for the proposed Shadow Mountain Bike Park. It would be near the intersection of Shadow Mountain Drive and South Warhawk Road. Developers wanted to make it the first lift-assisted bike park in the state. It would have a 15 to 18-foot tall lift, hauling bikers up the mountains they could then ride downhill. Neighbors saw a problem with extra traffic and noise in the area. County commissioners still have the final say on the park's future, but they'll take that planning board's rejection into account. Two women who each lost a parent in the King Soopers shooting have now created a friendship.
Yeah, and they're leaning on each other for support. Erica Mahoney's dad, Kevin, and Olivia McKenzie's mom, Lynn Murray, died within a minute of each other on March 22, 2021. The women were introduced through a victim advocate about a year after the shooting. They say they found comfort in talking about something that's tough to discuss with other people in their lives.
You lost your mom and I lost my dad in this shooting. We just immediately bonded. And we could both start from this place of understanding.
Just having that space in our hearts to just know that, I'll just always encourage you to just, shine your light and be, I think, what our parents would want for us.
They love each other, and they truly have found humor, and they've laughed again together. Their first meeting was at a coffee shop across the street from a cemetery, and they joked that was kind of a fitting setting.